The Accidental Entrepreneur is brought to you through our affiliate relationships with the following sponsors. Digital Accelerant, the digital mobile business card that generates leads. Text the word law to 21,000 to get connected and learn how to get your own digital business card. And by Fetch Internet and Fetch Pro, the secure, high-speed app that eliminates the need to pay for hotspots or use public unsecure Wi-Fi. And Printify, the online, on-demand print shop for all your corporate merchandise. Be sure to visit our online store and get your own podcast merch. Listen to all of our sponsors' commercials later in this episode and follow their links in the show notes to learn more about their products and services.
we went into social media marketing and we decided to build an agency. That's what we decided to do
Doing
first.
Social media marketing for other small businesses.
Yeah. So our first thought was restaurants. Wow. There's so much opportunity with restaurants. Look at that. They don't have cool pictures. Let me tell you, it was exhausting too. It's very challenging for restaurants to prove a positive ROI, right? How are you going to track every single order? Right. Then we were like, yeah, sure. We'll have pictures for your social media. We didn't know how to take pictures. So then, Google University started stacking up on all these skills. How do I take pictures? Right. And we started with our phones and eventually we got a camera. Eventually we're like, well, what if we offer them videos, but we don't know how to make videos? How do I edit videos? Yeah. And we started, and eventually I feel like we started stacking skills, right? Yeah. While we were trying to build a social media marketing agency. And that allowed us to go ahead and look for other type of clients besides restaurants, right? Because that was a very, honestly, difficult relationship that we weren't being paid enough. If I'm being honest, they were paying us $500 a month. And I'm not kidding, like week one, after we closed that deal, first, when we closed the deal, I was super excited. I was like, wow, $500 a month. I can't even believe it. That's so much. 1 week in, I was like, this is not enough for the amount of work that we're
not even
doing.
Close.
The information provided in these episodes is for entertainment purposes only. It is not a guarantee of success or to be construed as advice of any kind. You should always seek advice from local licensed professionals before making any decisions.
The dictionary defines an entrepreneur as a person who organizes and manages any enterprise, especially a business, usually with considerable initiative and risk. People often start a business without much choice, perhaps due to a job loss or just being dissatisfied at work, and they come up with an idea they just know can be successful. They become entrepreneurs by accident. That is to say, their success or failure happens by accident, not with intention. My name is Mitch Beinhacker. I'm a corporate attorney and a business advisor. You're listening to The Accidental Entrepreneur, my podcast about how to achieve success on purpose, not by accident. Join me along with our monthly guests where we share our knowledge and help you get a hold of your business. And now on to today's episode. Just to remind you, the podcast is produced and brought to you by my legal practice, Beinhacker Law. We provide business and estate services to entrepreneurs, inventors, and other small business owners. Whether you're just getting started or you've been operating for a long time, contact us for all your general legal needs, from contracts to client agreements, from purchasing a new location to onboarding a new partner or key employee. We draft all types of agreements and handle most business transactions. For more information about our products and services, visit beinhackerlaw.com or you can follow our link in the show notes. Thanks for listening, and I hope you enjoyed today's interview.
Hey, I'm Luis.
And I'm Luis.
And we are the BizBros. We are big into content. Clearly, the image behind us says content is profit, and we turn your content into a ton of value pack assets so you can distribute them all over social media and get more clients. Was that good, Fonzi?
Yeah, I hope you're ready for the Accidental Entrepreneur podcast. Let's go.
Yes, let's go.
All right, so Luis and Luis. Well, I say Luis and Fonzi, right? Because that makes it a lot easier for me to know who I'm talking to. If I call you both Luis, you won't know who I'm referring to. But I appreciate coming on. Yeah, right. Somehow it's all mental with you guys. But I appreciate you coming on. And when this thing finally gets edited and out, people will know by then that you guys just recently recovered from COVID. So you've been off the podcast horse for a while. And I hope this didn't affect your memory, but we'll talk about your background. So let's go back to, where you guys grew up. Where are you from originally? Sounds like you're from Brooklyn. And you can share that with me. And then we'll get into all the stuff, how you started working with content, what your suggestions are. Let's go backwards.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
It's funny how you mentioned Brooklyn. We actually have, if you're looking at the video on that side, there's like this massive Brooklyn Bridge, like
Oh, that's
canvas,
funny.
I guess. And that used to be our background. So people were like, oh my gosh, you guys are from New York. And we're like, is that New York? We had no idea what it was.
Really?
What it was. It just came from like, it just came with the studio. So we're like,
That's funny.
It just looks cool. So
You
we just
didn't
kinda
know
like-
it was New York.
No, we had no idea. So
funny.
clearly, we're not from there. We are both from Venezuela, from Caracas. So we've been
Okay.
here in the States for about 11 years now. This is home, but that's where kind of life started, and dreams were started to being forged, I guess.
Yeah, we grew up again, like my brother said, in Venezuela, 18 years. We both left for college. My brother has some extra adventures here and there in Europe, on the other side of the world. But we grew up wanting to be soccer players. That's all we wanted to do. We wanted to be professional
You're in that part of the world. Soccer is like the big thing.
Yeah, it's
Football,
a big
right?
thing,
They call it football.
Football,
yeah.
absolutely.
But you'll be surprised. Out of all South American countries, Venezuela is probably the least soccer oriented or football oriented, because baseball is the main
Right. Very
the
big.
main sport. Yeah.
Mhm.
But we grew up literally practicing every single day. Soccer was in our minds. So we came here to the States with the goal of, are we going to become soccer players? Right. We came for college with soccer scholarships.
Oh, you did? And you played
Yep.
soccer? You played soccer in college?
Yeah, we played soccer in college.
Where'd you go?
So I went to a small school in Texas called Midwestern State University.
Uh-huh.
And then I jump around to other schools.
Yeah, I ended up in Jacksonville, Florida, at UNF, University of North Florida. So that was a fun experience there for
Yeah.
sure.
Okay.
And in
And you didn't have to pay for it, which is even better.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That was the advantage, I mean,
Yeah.
soccer, sports in general, they're amazing. They connect you to a community, like-minded people. It was so easy to, even though we came from the other side of the world, just the fact that you were playing soccer, it was easy to meet people and get along, and it just made the whole move way easier, right?
And you guys all spoke English at that point, right?
Yeah, so we
debatable.
Fonzi's English was definitely not very good looking. Mine either. But getting maybe a girlfriend that speaks English helps a lot in the first couple of years.
Yeah.
So,
a translator.
We were very lucky that we went to a school back home that is labeled as bilingual, right? So you have a lot of English classes, and you come out of it being able to communicate, understanding everything. So that really helped big time. And, one of those adventures that Fonzi said, I was in Europe. I had the fortune to live with a couple of Australians. So I got the chance to practice my English for a full year.
Well, that doesn't help your English. It's going to be all screwed up. We live with Australians.
I thought that was like perfect. And then I come here, I'm like, nobody can understand me. They're like, you're speaking Australian English, man. That's not real.
Totally different. And my Australian friends and New Zealand friends are going to be pissed. So
it's a good, much love.
Yeah, it's interesting, man. Like the first, I would say 3 years I was here in the States is something natural that you're just drawn towards the people that speak your language. So
yeah, I'm sure.
I had a few Spanish speaking people in my team, so I would just literally go and hang out with them. And I remember my dad, before I left Venezuela, he told me, go and hang out with the Americans. So you really learn how to speak English. Yeah. Right?
Now, is Venezuela more Spanish speaking? Because I know Brazil's more Portuguese speaking, right?
Yeah.
And like Portugal and Spain right next to each other, they can't communicate for their life. It's totally different, right?
You'll be surprised. I mean, we can speak in Spanish to them and they can understand, and they can speak in Portuguese to us and we can kind of understand.
Maybe you.
Yeah. But it's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
With Italian, it's the same. We can kind of communicate.
Yeah, it's mainly Spanish, but the culture is very Americanized, right?
Yeah.
We consume a lot of the same type of content, right? On TV, on the networks and different things.
Yeah.
It's literally the same shows, just with subtitles or dubbed.
Right.
So it wasn't really a big culture shock when we came. No.
Yeah, not
that's
really.
Good.
Yeah, that was a good advantage there.
Honestly, the biggest issue was the language, right? The communication at first, and maybe some traditions, like, we back in Venezuela, we like to give kisses in the cheek when we meet somebody.
And other people will smack
right?
you here. You got to be careful.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like,
But what did you
literally-
need? I mean, you wanted to play soccer, right? And you wanted to meet girls. You don't need to know English for that. As a matter of fact, being foreign probably gives you an advantage over guys like
it
me.
was an
I'm American. They don't care.
Yeah,
They're
right.
like, oh, let me teach him English, right?
Yeah. I remember when I was in my fraternity house, there was this guy, I think his name was Juan Carlos or something. Juan was hysterical. And, he talked English and broken English, but a lot of it was Spanish. And he used to get up at the fraternity house and he would tell jokes, but I think in English wasn't as funny. Like the translation didn't work. He would be like, this happened. And then 50 chickens fell off of the truck. And everybody looked at him like, I don't get it. And probably in Spanish, it was very funny.
Yes,
funny in English.
absolutely.
I promise you,
Yeah.
we have been there.
This
We
is
have
what
been in
happened.
that exact situation.
I'm going to give you an inside look of what goes through her brain when that happens, because it has happened multiple times, still does with my girlfriend all the time. We think, so like we listen to the input in English, then we translate it to Spanish, and we're like, wow, this is an answer that back home is hilarious. And I'm going to share it with, somebody I really care about.
Right, but you have to do it in English because they won't
how do I share
understand
it?
you.
Exactly.
Right.
How do I share it in English? So through our brain, we translate that and then we share it. And after we're done,
Not
we
funny.
realize it was not funny. And then we're trying to explain the joke. And we're like, you know what?
You
Forget
got to
about it.
explain it. It's not funny. Yeah,
It's funny in Spanish.
Yeah.
Right.
So Mitch, I'll give you like a live example, right? We have this expression called I know my cattle, right?
Okay.
What it really means is like you know the people that you kind of hang out with, like whether that's your family, whether that's
Right.
your wife, your brother, whatever, right? So
It's
the
your
first
crowd.
time,
It's your group. It's the people
exactly
you hang out with.
your group. So
Okay.
this comes obviously from a farmer's town, right? People that have cows and they do that kind of stuff. So my wife says this thing about my brother. I'm like, no, that's not gonna happen. Like he's gonna do X, right? And he does X, right? And then I turn around, I'm like, hey, Katie, I know my cattle. And she's like, what the heck are you talking about, right?
Right.
Here's the funny thing. Like if you do it enough times, then they're going to adopt it. So now Katie and her entire family, which they're from Canada, they live here in the United States, right? They adopted that expression. So it's a great mix. So sometimes, it does hit and it does stick.
The power of
And now they use that all the
power
time.
of consistency. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Well, when you think of like Spanish, you think of like the gauchos on the pampas and, whatever, chasing the, I don't know. My Spanish has waned since high school.
So
Then I could speak. We went to like, I don't know, somewhere in Mexico or South America. My father couldn't speak a word. I was talking to the taxi cabs, getting us wherever. And now I can't speak anything.
Hey,
No.
you need some practice, Mitch. We can do a podcast in Spanish one of these days.
Let's do it. I got a friend who's, she does a podcast in Portuguese and she sends me the episodes all the time. I have no idea what it is. But
You're like, oh, that was beautiful. That was awesome.
yeah, it was beautiful. I don't know what she's saying. Yeah. It's there. Maybe there's a translator. Okay. So what did you had to major in something though? What was your major in school, right? You had to keep up your grades because then you can't play soccer.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So back home we have an expression. If you don't know,
Really?
if you don't know what to do, just go for business administration, and that's really
Yeah,
like
that's probably a
what
good
I did
move.
at that point.
Right.
I came with like 2 years worth of school. Also back in Venezuela, I had to like just restart everything for eligibility purposes. But I started my business administration career back in Venezuela, and that's what I did because I didn't really know what I wanted to do because at that point was for me. Soccer was a vehicle to come to the States and study and have a scholarship, right? In my head, I was already done with the professional soccer stuff that ended in Europe. But I was like, okay, well,
But you
I've
wanted to get
already-
a degree, right? Yeah.
I want to get my degree, see what happens, like go there for 4 years and then we'll figure it out, right? I have 4 years to kind of figure out what I really want to do. It was way longer than that, but that's at least
Well,
what
you're having fun. You didn't want to leave,
Yeah.
It's
So
like the 6-year senior.
yeah, pretty much. Looking for opportunities, right? Because we all know
Right.
Venezuela is not in the best, position for opportunities or growth, right? So it was like, okay, this is buying me 4 years of going to school. I'm gonna do that because then that's very broad. I could potentially get different opportunities and go from there. So business administration was for me. Fonzi, I honestly have no idea what are what
Yeah,
you did.
my thought process was the same. Honestly, I came first for business administration.
Right.
And when I got to Jacksonville, which was my third school, I was like, you know what? Why don't I switch it up? I mean, I love soccer. I want to play soccer. So if I don't end up playing professionally, I would like to, maybe do
coach.
something. Yeah, be a coach or whatever. So I'm like, sport business administration.
Yeah, okay. Sports administration.
Yeah,
we don't do anything differently. We go to school, we don't know what we're going to do. You major in business or marketing. That's it. You know, maybe economics, but then you learn that economics doesn't apply to anything. So
absolutely,
we don't. We're all lost too. So.
Yeah. And, you know, the funny thing is now, years later, I look back at it and I'm like, oh, I wish I would have taken advantage of trying to learn a skill, right? So maybe go for graphic design or something more specialized that I could leverage, right? But at that time, in my mind, the only thing was literally soccer. I just want to play soccer and I want to see where that opportunity is going to be.
So what did you get? A degree like in sports management or something like that?
Yeah. So I got the degree in sport management, and, you know, I actually got an opportunity to almost play professionally here in the States. I did some tryouts. They picked me for their team, but at the end they didn't offer me a contract. Right. And that's when the end of my career happened. And I had about 1.5 years left in school at that point. So I wasn't about to change full on the career, right? I was already.
Doesn't matter. You get a degree. Yeah.
I mean, I could have, right? But in my mind, I was like, okay, I'm just want to get done with school and then what's next, right? And that's kind of like the beginning of the entrepreneurial journey for us. That's when I first started thinking on, what am I going to do next? My brother already had a few years thinking on what is he going to do next.
I'm trying things.
I'm trying things. Yeah. But for me, that was that one moment that is like, okay, what was, I mean, Mitch, I remember the moment exactly. I came back. It was like 7 a.m. after practice. We practiced super early. And I was at my ex-girlfriend's house and I was eating cereal. And all of a sudden I'm like eating and I'm like, why is this cereal so salty? Then I realized it was just my tears, you know, falling in the cereal.
I thought you were going to say, oh, wait, these are potato chips.
I was like, oh, no, this is it. This is the end of the soccer dream, right? Like this was my last opportunity to make it professionally. And then I was like, what's next? Like, I've been working all my life for this, is to play professionally.
Yeah, you got to pivot.
What's next out there? Yeah. So
now you're Fonzi. You're younger than Luis. Luis, you're older because you said you went to school for like 18 years and you're already out of school at this point. So I figured you're a little bit older.
Yeah, but a little bit older, but just like full disclosure, just 6 years, 2 in Venezuela and 4 here. So,
but Fonzi looks more mature. He's got that beard going on, you know.
Until he opens his mouth, that's game over.
Yeah, I use the beard to my advantage. That's for sure.
There you go. So how did you guys end up in Florida? You relatives there or something?
So it was mainly me because my scholarship. The way that we got scholarship was also a little bit of a different way that most people will think. We literally emailed all 300 coaches.
Oh, really?
D1, D2, and D3. Yes, we recorded. So our thing with content goes way back, and we didn't know it. So we actually recorded a reel of us playing in different games, different things.
Like a highlight reel?
And a highlight reel. And then for 1 year, we worked with an agency that didn't work out. And then we decided to take it in-house, I guess. And we literally sat down in our dining room table in Venezuela and just sending every single email, personalized email to every single coach, D1, D2, D3. So I got answers from West Texas A&M and University of North Florida. I was very, very lucky. Those were the two universities that reached back out to me. Fonzi, I think, had like about 3 options. So when I consulted, they were like, well, UNF is a Florida school, is D1. They're offering you a full ride. You should go. So that was
not much to consult.
Not much to consult.
That's networking for you, right, man?
Yeah. So that was really encouraging that a school that at that level, right, consider somebody, because the stats were, I think, 1% of Americans in general get into a D1 school. So I was like, oh man, that's pretty awesome. So we came here and then I fell in love with the city and the program and it worked out. And then Fonzi, after a couple of years in Texas, decided to come in. And,
I was like, how can I keep bothering my brother? Let me just follow him back to Jacksonville.
Yeah.
And you've been there ever since, right?
We've been there. So this is home now. We've seen the city grow. We've helped a lot of people here. We've been helped by a lot of people in here as well. And this is where family is now. So.
All right. So then let's figure out what happened. So you graduate. I don't know what. So Fonzie, well, you're finishing up, right? What's Luis doing?
He was working already. Well, okay. So while I was in my last year of college, right, I met this guy in the soccer team, in the professional soccer team, right? I decided after they told me, hey, we're not going to give you a contract, since I love pain, right? I was like, can I still go out to the field and help you guys out? I'll pick up the soccer balls. I don't care.
The water boy.
Yeah, right. I was like, I just want to be involved somehow. So I started going, and one of the teammates, he is actually an immigrant too from Croatia. So the guy was super cool, and he's like, dude, I really like you. I know your brother. I met him before. I have this franchise that teaches soccer to little kids. It's like, I would love for you to be a part of it, right? And at that moment, I was like, sure, like that sounds great. Sounds like an opportunity, right? So that's what we started doing at first. We started working for this soccer franchise.
Teaching little kids, running programs and groups and stuff.
Yeah, cool. And it was hilarious. Like the very first day that we went to this school, this daycare, the guy just saw the two of us and he's like, who's going first? No training, no nothing. He's like, who's going first? Who's going to take the first class? And we're like, wait, what? And at the end of
make it up as you go along.
I mean, there is a program that we knew somewhat of the theory on how to do it, but it was the first time in person
with the kids. Right? And at the end of the class, you have to sing a song, right? So like Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, ABCs, whatever. We didn't know those songs because we didn't grow up with those songs.
Right, of course.
So I remember the last time my brother just went in there and he started singing Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Something. I don't know. He just started making up a song. And this guy, he turns to me and he's like, is he just making up a song right now? And I was like, yes, absolutely 100%. And he's like, I love it.
Funny.
I absolutely love it. You guys,
how little were these kids? Little?
Anywhere from 2 to 6 year olds. So
really little.
Yeah, really little. It taught us lots of patience.
Lots of patience.
But yeah, throughout college, right? Like, even while Fonzi was like focused on soccer, like I always in my head had something like, what am I gonna do next? I don't really want to go get a job. That's not how I've been functioning, like in my head, right? I'm like, I want to create something, right?
Right.
And the only reason I saw a job as a thing was paperwork wise, right? As an international student, you have to get a job, and I saw it as a vehicle to finance whatever I was doing next, right? So we started a somewhat of a brand in college called Mass Life. We launched different events around campus and with students and different things. That was really fun. There was a try of a blog, BuzzFeed style, but that didn't really go anywhere.
Okay.
Because we didn't know what we didn't know, right? So after graduation, that opportunity comes. And the reason like I personally took it was obviously soccer is something that we knew. It was kind of like on the management side. So I ended up being the director of it. So we had several coaches around 32 locations in Jacksonville, Florida.
That was a big program.
Yeah. So we grew it, right? And together with Weekend League. So on the business side, that was fun, but also it was very flexible hours wise. So those hours can allow me to, kind of dive into different projects. What are we doing? Like, what are we doing? Social media? Are we doing this stuff? And they kind of evolved in there. Somewhere in there, we drove for Uber as well. There's some crazy stories in there as well. So like, we literally like went into like this mode of, hey, we have this thing that are paying the bills, but at the same time, we're dedicating all the extra time into different ventures like screen printing t-shirts, doing stickers, selling this kind of stuff, diving into social media. And that's where kind of like that journey started.
Okay, I see. So then you started finding how to use content and how to do different types of things and promote.
It actually started with our roommate. We used to live in this 7-bedroom house. We call it a frat house, right? And it was a bunch of roommates. Who's my wife now, thank God. And Fonzi was there, a couple of dogs.
And she knows crazy. All the secrets. So you gotta.
She has all the dirt.
She's a real boss.
Can't let her go now.
She was the CEO of that house. Anyways, a roommate comes in and he's like, guys, let's start a company. And we're like, sounds good. Let's do it. Right. And he goes like, I purchased this. And he shows us a picture and it's this vinyl cutter that we had to like plug into a computer to do stickers. Sorry, to do stickers.
Wow, you got emotional.
I got emotional. This is a big part of the story. And we're like, sure, let's do it, right? And we're like, how hard can it be, right? Like these stickers, like it costs 2 cents to make, and we can sell them for $10. bucks, right?
We're like, the margins are great. And then Google, what are margins?
Pretty much. So we literally started like knocking on doors physically, like to local businesses, surf shops and different things. And we sold a few, right? And then literally like a month later, we end up in Orlando in Surf Expo, it's called. So where big brands like Quicksilver, Rip Curl, like all these big brands go there to sell merchandise to all these surf shops, right? And we're like, we ended up there because we wanted to meet all these people so we can sell them the stickers that we were cutting.
These are stickers for what? People put them on their surfboards? What?
Yeah, it will be like any
vinyl
vinyl sticker. So it will be like your logo and like in vinyl, and it's like
honestly great quality stickers because I have one in my car for the last 80 years and it's still there going strong. Yeah,
like, was that like the stickers on the back of your laptop there? Those types of stickers,
like this red one right here,
like the red one,
or this black one. Yeah, exactly. So
Yeti
that,
one,
like, exactly, those kind of stickers, right? So we go to this thing and we're in line to get into, and this is how scrappy we were at the time. We were in line to get in and we see one sign that says must have to go in to be registered, right? And one of the things says website, and we're like, crap. So we turn around to Steven. Steven was like the 6 Foot Southern. That's why the company was called 6 Foot Southern. And we turn around, we're like, dude, Steve, like, do we have a website? And he's like, well, I've been building like a Shopify site for the stickers. Like, so we didn't really have an official website. And we're like, but it says there that we need one to actually get in, and we paid for all the tickets on the stuff. He's like, don't worry. So he grabs the phone and he starts like doing something on the phone, right? And he was
very tech savvy.
Yeah, he was very tech savvy. And in like probably
Are you serious or are you sarcastic?
No, I'm very serious.
He was tech savvy?
He was very tech savvy.
Oh, okay.
He finished. We had 2 people in front of us before we actually had to talk to the clerk. And he finished the website on his phone enough for them to be like, hey, where's your website? And we're like, here. And we show the phone, right? And the lady kind of scrolls down and clicks a couple of things and like, okay, sweet, validated and let us into the event. And we're like, whoo, we made it. And we're like, that was kind of crazy on how we used to do business back then, right? And we got in and we ended up falling in love with this screen printing machine, right? We saw it's like beautiful, classic. Right?
I think we fell in love with the opportunity that having a screen printing machine could.
So when you say screen printing, what did it print? Like on shirts?
T-shirts.
So fun fact, great quality t-shirts as well.
I know.
I've had this shirt. This was the very last shirt that we printed, right? It says
from the screen printing machine.
From the screen printing machine,
yeah. So obviously we see this thing. It was about $5,000. We didn't have $5,000, right? Like that was the time right out of college, not even a consideration, right? And then we get back home and we're like, well, we're all hyped about the event. We met a ton of people. We didn't sell anything, but it was
no stickers. You didn't sell any stickers.
No stickers. We kind of got blinded by. We ended up just walking and seeing what everybody had.
Yeah, it was our very first, I'll say, big scale event, and we were just in awe of everything, right? The logistics, the after party, the free Red Bull, so much
there
energy.
You go.
Yeah, it was awesome.
So our roommate comes a week later and be like, guys, I applied for a credit and we got the screen printing machine. So a truck is delivering the thing in our backyard in like 2 days. So we ended up getting this machine and we're like now stuck with stickers and screen printing. And at the time I already transitioned jobs into a fitness studio. So I used that, and the people, the members and kind of like the community that had businesses, right? We started selling these t-shirts. So we ended up getting orders, 300 t-shirts, 200 t-shirts, right? The issue was
for what? For like a particular store or a brand or something?
It would be like brands, events, different things, right? So it was like a charity run, and we
guys are bootlegging everything, bootstrapping everything. You got 14 businesses going on.
So pretty much. So that starts, right? But the issue was like, it was us in a Florida garage, 90-degree weather, 80% humidity.
Right. Hey, Hawaiian Tropic started out of a garage, or maybe the guy's trunk. I don't remember, but yeah.
So
Google started out of a garage.
A lot of things started like, I'm sure it wasn't a Florida garage with that heat and that humidity, but it was, we ended up getting at this event to dry the shirts because we had all these like shirts hang up all around the house, the 7-bedroom house. We had
because how could it dry if it's so hot in the garage, right?
Exactly. So it was quite an adventure.
Not to mention that, but also we decided to be, good to the environment, and we decided to purchase this water-based ink that wouldn't, again, hurt the environment. And you couldn't have so much humidity, or it couldn't be so hot in the room where you were using it, or it would dry in seconds. I'm not kidding. Like,
oh my God,
we would have this shirt you would screen print it and then move on to the next one,
Dry.
and the paint was already dry, and you're like
on the screen. So that means that you had to reset the entire process. But so we didn't fall in love with the process, and we didn't know what we didn't know, right? So around that time, we were like, okay, how can we well, do we need to hire somebody? Like, do we need to move this thing to like a warehouse? We didn't have enough capital for a warehouse. Like, it was just a very painful experience at the time because we didn't know what we didn't know. Even though we were selling, we were resisting the sale. We were resisting going out and selling because we didn't want to do the thing, right?
Yeah. I mean, we would spend till 2, 3 a.m. in the morning just screen printing at times, and it was just exhausting.
Yeah. So in that process of, okay, how can we build this online business as far as like, let's do our own brand with the machine and put it online. We started learning a lot about social media and marketing and direct response and all these things, right? So it got to a time where we were like, enough of this. We ended up selling the machine. Like that hurt a little bit the relationship with our roommate. We're good now, by the way, after a couple of years. But we decided to like just part ways, right? And dedicate it entirely into the online world. And that's when the online bootlegging and hustling kind of started. What was that? Like maybe that's 4 years ago, 5 years ago. It's been a couple of years now since then. But
so was that an e-commerce store now? You're selling online?
So when we did the screen printing, right? We were screen printing for other people, and we created a brand called 6 Foot Southern, right? So that was that was the initial of that online shop. But whenever we decided to like, that's it, enough, like we're not doing any of this.
We part ways with the whole e-commerce industry. we went into social media marketing. And we decided to build an agency. That's why we decided to do
social media marketing for other small businesses.
Yeah. So our first thought was restaurants. Wow, there's so much opportunity with restaurants. Look at that. They don't have cool pictures. Let me tell you, it was exhausting too. It's very challenging for restaurants to prove a positive ROI, right? How are you going to track every single order? Then we were like, yeah, sure, we'll have pictures for your social media. We didn't know how to take pictures. So then, Google University started stacking up on all these skills. How do I take pictures, right? And we started with our phones, and eventually we got a camera. Eventually we're like, well, what if we offer them videos? But we don't know how to make videos. How do I edit videos? And we started, and eventually I feel like we started stacking skills, right? While we were trying to build a social media marketing agency. And that allowed us to go ahead and look for other type of clients besides restaurants, right? Because that was a very, honestly, difficult relationship that we weren't being paid enough. If I'm being honest, they were paying us $500 a month. And I'm not kidding, like week 1, after we closed that deal, first, when we closed the deal, I was super excited. I was like, wow, $500 a month. I can't even believe it. That's so much. 1 week in, I was like, this is not enough for the amount of work that we're
not even
doing.
close.
So we transitioned. We started looking for more clients that had higher ticket, services.
Yeah, going to pay you for more services. So let me ask you the tough question though, right?
Yeah.
You're both from Venezuela. You're not from the United States. You got your degree. You came out of school. You spent your time in T-shirts and stickers, which, by the way, on our last pod, Max, you had your sticker there. I see it on the back of your laptop. And I was like, oh, shit, the BizBros have stickers. I got to go get stickers. So I'm like Googling stuff. And now, I don't know where they are, but I have a shitload of stickers. I don't know what to do with now because I found it online. They're like long. They match the logo in the corner of the screen there.
Yes.
But I gave a ton to my son. He's taking it back to school, so he's going to stick it everywhere. Laptops and tables and bars and
guerrilla marketing. Love it.
Right. Exactly. All over the place. So you guys definitely put a fire under me. So here you are, right? You're like, okay, this whole T-shirt thing's not working. We're dying in the garage. Let's go into social media marketing. We have no clients. We have no experience, right? And there's a lot of people like that, right? There's a lot of like small business owners. They're like, this is what I want to do. And they're like, well, how the hell am I going to do it? I don't have any clients. I don't know what to tell them. So what did you do? What did you do first? What did you say? Okay, how are we getting our first client? You said restaurants. What a brilliant idea.
Yeah. So the idea with the restaurants came out of a course that we bought, right? Like that. And that was the initial thing. We put scores, I think, was like $1,000. Like we put it on a credit card, first credit card out of college.
To take a social media marketing course.
Social media marketing agency kind of deal. And I remember like I probably saw like 20% of the initial videos, and that lighted the initial fire to go out and start asking for these opportunities. Right.
I personally think we'd never finish the course.
That was never like finished. Exactly. So And what happened was this started to happen naturally, right? We will go into this call visiting these locations and we'll ask, hey, what do you need, right? Like what are you struggling with? What are your struggles? And in part of that lesson is we're learning from the audience, right? We're listening to our audience.
Yeah, that's what you should do, right?
And then we will grab that and be like, sounds good. Like we can help here, right? And then we will provide that solution, which in that case was those pictures, those videos, right? Now there was a trial period where we needed to test like the pricing, the type of client. And that's where we started diving into more self-education. We consume a lot of books. We consume a lot of content. We consume a lot of like education on that sense to grab that information and start applying it into it, right? So I think one of the things that really helped us was we have this term called table face, right? Like, and table face is you go and you ask for really what you want to do.
It's one of those Spanish terms. When you try,
it's like believing in yourself, right? It's like
pretty much
acting, faking it till you make it type of thing, right?
Kind of. But here's the interesting part, right? Like maybe at first, right? But when the deal is done, we have to deliver. We have to fulfill on that promise, whatever that was, obviously. Right? So we had an incredible client. Shout out to Sammy, like with a company, Dietitians of Palm Valley, that gave us a big shot at different things. We did email marketing, we did a campaign. We crushed a couple of campaigns where we sold $12,000 of a course that she never sold before, right? Then we did again, and it ended with $40,000 of consultations for her. So we were getting these results. The issue was we were doing a lot of things. It was like 7-8 different things that we were doing. And at the time,
we thought we had a business, but we were just freelancing at that point.
At the time,
right? You didn't write a business plan. You didn't have anything at that point.
Yeah. So this was our business plan. We decided to call ourselves the anti-marketing agency. So when we would go to people and talk to them, we'd be like, so what's your marketing agency doing? Right? It's like, we can do it better. We are the anti-marketing agency. We can give you the results they're not giving you, right? So that was
right. But so how did you get? So you go to me. I'm a restaurant guy, right?
Yeah.
I guess if you got referred to me and they said, talk to Luis and Louise, and they're great guys, but I say, okay, guys, what have you done in the past? And nothing.
Okay.
How do you sell that?
I'm going to tell you the story of how we sold our very first restaurant.
Okay, great story. I love it. Okay, that's what I want to hear.
So this restaurant was pretty close to the school that we went to, right? So I remember I was driving through there one day and I always see the sign of that restaurant, which is not there anymore. If they would have kept us, maybe they would be still there.
There you go.
But they used to have this like Margarita Wednesdays where all the university would go there and drink their life away, right? So that's why I knew them. I was like, dude, these guys are famous, but literally every other day they're empty. So I was like, they might need help, right? So I started looking in social media. Yeah. I was like, they are not active. They got nothing. Mm-hmm. I was like, oh, we can definitely help these guys. So I put a proposal, right, based on what we learned on the course. I was like, look, I'm going to take pictures. I'm going to maintain your social media, and I'm going to run some advertisement. We're going to create an offer, and we're going to drive some advertisement so we can get people here. Right. Besides for Margarita Wednesdays, that I'm pretty sure you guys might be operating at a loss in here.
One day a week, I would think, right?
Yeah. So I go into the restaurant. Well, first I call them. I was super nervous. I was like,
you didn't know, you weren't referred. You didn't know the owners. Nope. The only thing you knew is that you go there on Wednesdays to drink margaritas.
Absolutely.
That was it. Okay. This is a good story for people.
So I called this guy and I'm like, hi. This is Luis. We have from BizBros agency.
Right. No, the other Luis, not that. Yeah.
and this guy, he's like super serious. And he's like, okay, cool. See you Wednesday. Bye.
Here's a word from our sponsors. Uplift your marketing and reinforce your brand with a digital business card from Digital Accelerant. Use a text marketing combination to stand out in front of your competition. Digital business cards make you memorable and most of all help you bring in new business through its warm lead generator. Motion graphics, intro, outro, and inspirational videos can be added during setup. Text the word LAW to 21,000. That's LAW to 21000 to learn how to get your own digital business card. Suffering from slow internet speed? Worried about hackers? Fetch Pro gets the internet from your smartphone to your Windows and Mac computer without paying for a hotspot. Always get the fastest, most stable, and secure internet access on your computer with Fetch Pro. Follow their affiliate link on our website to learn more and get connected with Fetch. Printify is the online service that simplifies and automates the process of sourcing and creating print-on-demand products branded with your company logo, product, or service. Printify is a better alternative to pre-purchasing and warehousing your merchandise for distribution or sale. Follow their link from our website to learn how to set up your own online store. And be sure to visit our online store and get yourself some podcast merch. Follow the link in the show notes to learn more about all of our sponsors. And now back to our show.
And I was like, I got a meeting. I was like, I can't believe it. I got a meeting. So I called my brother. I'm like, dude, we got this restaurant. I called them. We set up a meeting. So then when the meeting comes, I dress up. Like, first of all, how you see me is how I live my day-to-day t-shirt and a hat, unless I have a nice haircut. Then I'm like, all right, let me show my haircut. But at that point, I was like, I got to dress to impress. You know, you hear it everywhere. I was like, you got to dress.
Yeah, especially you're young. You don't want to think you're a kid in t-shirts.
Exactly, right? I don't want to show up in there looking like a 21-year-old. And this guy's like, this guy has no value. At least I had to put on a tie. So that's what I did, right? I suit up to go to this restaurant. And I'm telling you, it's not the fanciest of restaurants. And I got there and I started talking. I had a whole paper printed with, you know, the difference between advertising on the newspaper, on magazines, and online, and all the numbers. I just went into what is called the techno babble, right? I was just like,
yeah, they didn't know what you were saying.
They had no idea what I was saying. They just knew I was passionate enough about it. Right. And I mean, under that suit, I was just sweating, right? And at the end, the guy's like, okay, cool, let's do it. How much is it? And I was like, I don't think I prepared for this.
I didn't do that part. I don't know.
Yeah, I was like, I prepared for everything except for the closing, right? So I was like,
right. Well, you didn't expect them to say yes, right? So
exactly. Honestly, yeah. It was, I mean, my selling experience prior to this was selling $30 memberships for the parents in the soccer franchise.
For the 2-year-olds.
Right? For the 2-year-olds, right? I clarify here. I wasn't selling the 2 years old. Right. I was selling the parents. Okay.
Right. Well, because the parents had all the money. So yeah,
exactly. Absolutely. Right. So back to the restaurant, right? The guy's like, okay, cool deal. $500. And I was like, I can't believe it. This is amazing. And I tell him, okay, I'm going to be back. I don't remember if it was next day or like 2 days. I'm like, I'm going to bring the contract so we can sign it. And he's like, okay, cool. Awesome. We shake hands. I leave. When I'm in the car, I call my brother. Luis Daniel, you can't believe it. We closed the deal. We're officially in business. And we're like, well, we got to register the company.
Right. You were just right. You're just winging it, right?
We were winging it.
Like, Google how to register a company in Florida. Sunbiz.
Yeah. Literally. We had no company whatsoever. So we register the company, and then we print this template contract. I don't know where we got it from. And I take it to this guy. The first thing that he says when he sees us coming in, he's like, I noticed that your company was started yesterday.
Oh, he had looked it up?
He looked it up, yes. He's like, this guy's probably looks so sketchy. Yeah. I'm going to find out, right? And he found out, right? He was like, I noticed that you guys registered the company yesterday. And my immediate answer was like, oh, yeah, definitely. You know what? We were actually testing the idea to see if people actually wanted these services. And since you said yes, we just went ahead and did it. I mean, it was honest, right? But I don't know where the answer came from. And the guy looked at me and he's like, okay, cool, let's do it. And I was like, oh, yeah, thank you. You know, I don't at this point, looking back, I don't know if the guy just saw the ambition, right?
Maybe that has a lot to do with it. Maybe he's thinking these guys are going to do all this for $500. Right? I'm going to be quiet about it because they're going to figure out this is a lot of work.
Absolutely. Or it was that, right? He's like, oh, I can easily take advantage of these guys. Right. So yeah, we signed that thing. We started working. And even though it was very challenging, it was a very challenging client, right? It gave us the opportunity to learn a lot, right? I mean, we did our first advertising campaign there. We made our first offer there. I learned how to take pictures with that client. I learned how to make and edit videos because of that client. So it gave us the opportunity to level up, right? And then we learn a few things in there, for example, pricing. So when we went on to the next person,
you're like, I'm not doing this for $500 again.
Exactly. And we offer something totally, I will say, way better, in my opinion, right? A little bit biased here, but we also told them it's going to be $2,000 a month, right? Like that's going to be the price. And the guy said yes. And we look at each other and we're like, wow,
we should have said more.
Yeah, right. That's what I was thinking. Oh shit, he said yes to 25. He should be negotiating. We should start at 5,000.
Yeah. So that's the story on our very first client. It was awesome, honestly.
But you got to get started somehow, right? So sometimes you don't have the clients, you don't have the experience. So how do you get the experience? You just got to do it, right? Knock on doors until somebody says, you vomit all over somebody. And they're like, I don't even know what these guys are talking about. Okay, we'll do it. He knew he had no social media anyway. Now, you obviously improved the restaurant, right? But then eventually you stopped working with him and now he's not in business anymore.
Yeah. So, I mean, we drove there, when was it, like 2 weeks ago, and they were not there anymore. They used to be. But
COVID, right?
Maybe one of the COVID victims. Who knows? Victim. But yeah, I mean,
we moved to a very far side of town after that. And then we didn't drive that much through there.
Yeah,
but
part of it was too, like I was mentioning, right? Like friction was happening because the client kept asking for different things that were not stipulated in the first scope.
Right, so you couldn't charge them for it. Right.
So we're like, that we cannot do that because this is what, and that's the whole learning experience, right? At some degree, like if we're starting a new product, a new service, a new thing, there's going to be a lot of feedback, right? And we took those lessons and we use it now with the things that we do. And we're very specific with number one, the product that we sell and the service that we sell. And number two, with what is the scope? What is the thing? What are the responsibilities of each team member, us, the client, right? So those are things that we learn along the way through execution. So it was definitely a fun initial 4 years of, technically official BizBros. And then, different opportunities started coming up because the results were happening, right? So referrals is a thing. And we're like, hey, how can we systematize referrals? How can we create these conversations? How can we do that? How can we do this? And then fast forward a few years when COVID hit right here in Jacksonville, that all local businesses closed. Yeah. We were like, crap, what do we do now? We lost about 80% of our clientele because they had to.
They were shut down. Right? I was the same way. All my business clients were closed. I'm a business attorney. I work with small business owners. They were all shut down.
So we're like, what now? Right. And we had, at the time we invested, that was around the time that we invested in our first mastermind, like high level mastermind, and our coaches and the people in the community were like, you guys need to publish, you guys need to be out there. You guys do all this for other clients, but you guys don't do it for yourselves. Right. And we had a very painful experience pitching the service, like to local businesses where they were like, well, like, I don't believe you because where's your stuff? Like, where's your
content? What have you done? What are you doing? Right.
Exactly. So now I would have answered in a very different way, but at the time it really hurt. It was a gut punch. Right. And that was around the time that we decided in March last year, we're starting the show. And that's how the podcast started, the Content is Profit podcast, where we interview different people on how they're doing with the content in their business. We talk entrepreneurship mindset. And what happened was wonderful because it created this massive door of opportunities with other incredible entrepreneurs, right? Yeah. That needed our service.
We met, right?
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And different communities and different people around the country that now we can have these incredible conversations, learn a ton, show the audience what we do. And even the connections that we have on a one-on-one person created opportunities like strategic partnerships and different things. So we were like, this is it. And then since that moment, that has been the single focus on the show and the different things that we do. So we all ought to publishing, but obviously, that came because of the lessons of executing and going through the motions.
Right. It's funny. We have similar journeys because in the middle of, what is it now? 2021. So in the middle of 2019, I had, 5 or 6 partners, and we had space and the whole law firm. And I decided to just pull the ripcord and go up back on my own. And I took the podcast with me and some other things. I was doing it. They weren't really interested in it, but it was just, once a month. I was kind of toying with it. But then when COVID hit and I was closed like you guys, I was like, well, I don't want people to think I died during this time. So I'm just going to, and I was connected with people everywhere. That's how I met. I met this guy, Kieran. I don't know if you know Kieran Lenahan. He goes to PodMax. So he introduced me to Josh and Eric, and I met them, went to PodMax, and I was just interviewing, 20 people a week. It was crazy. That's how I started going to 2 episodes a week, because I couldn't interview you and say, guys, your episode's going to come out in September of 2023, like, what? Yeah. So, but I noticed, and I had a conversation with Isar, Isar, E-Tribe, right? Isar's a great guy. And he had said to me, Mitch, if you just keep putting out content, you just keep doing quality stuff, good conversations, but you have to be consistent about it. You don't stop. You can't just like put out something and say, well, I posted on LinkedIn. I didn't get anything from it. Really? How many times did you post? 3. You posted 3 times and you gave it. So it took like a good 12 months, 18 months where I get to the point where people have seen so many episodes. I got 170 now, and there's so much content out there and it's all over the internet. My SEO is not even good. I'm fixing all that stuff now. It really is. Content really is the long game, It really is. And people don't get that. You guys obviously do.
So Mitch, I just want to say thank you for being one of those creators, right? Because like in this year, it's incredible. And you understand it. You understand this consistency. It's a long-term play, and it has to be enjoyable for you. I'm assuming you enjoy creating this type of content.
Oh, there's I've told people, don't do a podcast because you think it's going to bring you business. You're going to hate it. If you like to blog and write, do a blog. If you want to do videos, do video. If you want a podcast, great. But if you don't, you're, like you said, it's going to be painful unless you really enjoy it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we talked, behind cameras the last 2 weeks. We haven't been able to produce an episode, right? We were a little under the weather, and we're getting back at it, right? But we're about to hit 200. I mean, published has been like 230.
We had to stop at 198.
198.
Yeah,
that was where you stopped.
Close.
Yeah, so you got 198 that's out on the street.
Yeah,
there's a few more unofficial episodes, but like official interviews, like 198, right? And hopefully we're starting back on Monday. By the way, Mitch, you're obviously invited into the show, so hopefully we'll have you.
Oh, I'll come by. Absolutely. Now, you guys are always co-hosts, or you've ever done it separately?
Always
co-host. Fonzi has been out of the studio for a couple of the episodes where his energy is not the highest, but it's all good.
It is different when I'm away on vacation or somewhere.
But you still pipe in.
Yeah. I still gotta get in there. You gotta love the conversations. But yeah, there's something with doing it in here, being in the same room, the energy, right? And it's having the sounds as well, right? We have a soundboard here where we can put some fun elements.
Fun story about that, right? We were in the mastermind. This is before we even started the show. It was a live event. We flew to Boise, Idaho, right? We're from Florida. We're in there, and we're like this room full of entrepreneurs, right? And we get the chance to ask a question, right? To who became, where was that the mastermind already?
Wait, this was a mastermind. You weren't doing the podcast remotely.
No. We were not publishing at the time. We were trying to figure out like, what was the service that we're actually going to do? Like the one thing, right? Not the 8 different options that we were freelancing, right? Yeah. The one thing so we could scale.
This was the mastermind.
This was the mastermind. Exactly. Yeah, okay. So it's about 70 entrepreneurs, high level entrepreneurs in there, right? Like I think we were probably the ones with least experience that kind of dove into this thing without having the money, right? We had to figure, that was another crazy story, but we're in this thing and we're on the mic and we're like, hey, you say, like, to our coach, right? At the time, you say that you have to publish. That this is a requirement now for every single business, right? We had to become a media company that sells something that helps with that service, right?
Yeah.
So it's 2 of us. What do you recommend? Like, how do we figure this publishing thing out? Is it just one of us?
Yeah, who becomes the attractive
who becomes
character?
That attractive character, right? And our coach at the time was like, his experience was with one attractive character, one person,
right?
And consistency. Here, right? I'm going to make a little parenthesis for those listening. The attractive.
There are
character
2 of you.
Is a term. There's 2 of us, first of all. Yeah, if you haven't noticed in the whole episode. But the attractive character is a term that I heard it first from Russell Brunson on ClickFunnels, right?
Right.
And he's talking that attractive character becomes the image, becomes relatable for people, and that creates trust in the environment for people to buy and become clients, right?
Exactly. Make a purchasing decision. So we're like, okay, how do we figure this one out? Because it's 2 of us, right? And we tend to be a little extroverted in front of a camera. We're okay. Maybe me, I'm a little bit more than Fonzi. No. So we're like, how do we figure this out? And the guy was, his advice was, you guys have to pick one. Like I would recommend like pick one, and then that is the person who's going to produce it. And so we're like, when this thing, exploded, we're like, screw that. We're not listening to our coach. That was
Right.
the one thing. We were paying 25 grand for that mastermind. And we're not listening to it. That was the one thing that we said like no to. Right. And it couldn't be better.
So he was suggesting that like you should be on the mic, Luis, and Fonzi, you should be behind the camera. Is that what he was kind of suggesting?
He said one.
That doesn't work. And then you're not BizBros, then you just biz.
Yeah. Exactly.
Exactly. So what happened was something beautiful, right? Because obviously we listened to the publishing side of thing and we listened to the consistency side of thing. But at the same time, we're like, okay, we need to make this enjoyable to be able to produce it every single day. And you're keeping me accountable and I'm keeping you accountable, because sometimes we feel like we don't want to do it. Right. And there's been those days.
No,
where
I don't have that. Friday mornings, I usually do my podcast on Fridays. I'm like, oh, another day. And I got to get going for my 10 o'clock. I do it 10 o'clock and then now 3:30. I got to get myself up. I got nobody to do it. I smack myself in the face. I wake up and some days you ever do an interview with somebody in the middle of the interview, you're thinking, how in the world am I going to get through 50 minutes with this person?
You're like, we're doing
I got to make
interview.
this so boring. I got to make this interesting. I mean, it was easy to get it for you guys because I know you're high energy and you're excited to talk to you and all this kind of stuff. But sometimes I get these people that are referred to me or publicists send them to me. And in the middle, I'm like, I'm never going to get through this interview. It's hard. You guys got each other. So it's nice.
So that has helped.
Another element that we included there that helps, Mitch, that it might, help you as well if you want to take this route. Red Bull. We're always caffeinated. But do it live, right? We decided, hey, you know what? Because we actually tried to start the podcast about a year before we actually started Content is Profit. We attempted to start a podcast called Brews and Bros. So I'm happy that one didn't work out because we would be alcoholics at this point.
Brews and Bros, right?
Brews and Bros.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And the whole idea was to discuss pretty much it was like, we were drinking
cool things that we thought it was.
But the whole idea was to discuss what we were learning in the marketing world. So, the name and the topic didn't really align. Right. But we had so much friction trying to create that podcast because we try to overproduce it, right? We're like, let's have.
I know it's a lot of work. It's ridiculous. It gets crazy.
Yep. I'm setting the scene. At the time, we were going through the One Funnel Away challenge, right? So every single day for 30 days, we were learning something, right? And we're like, okay, we're going to document every single day. So I was working. Fonzi was kind of working. I don't know what he was doing at the time.
I was freelancing.
He was freelancing.
Okay.
And we would come home and it was, at the time, we already moved out of the frat house. We were in a 2-bedroom apartment. So it was me and my wife in one room and Fonzi in the other room. So we didn't have really much space. And we were in the living room taking notes in this thing at 8 p.m., right? So the whole thing ends at like 9:30, 10 p.m. And that's when we would go into Fonzi's room to set up. So we would like move the bed to one side, put these lights, 2 cameras. The whole thing looked like a porn set. And so like one day, like Mandy, Fonzi's girlfriend walks in like, what are you guys doing here? I'm like, it's not what it looks like. It's a podcast. So the whole setup, it took about 40 minutes to an hour just to do the setup. So that's adds a ton of friction to the process. And then each camera had a timer. So every 20 minutes we had to get up and re-record it. It was just very painful production.
And one day my brother spilled the beer all over the computer too. It was accidental as well. So fast forward a year, right? We actually recorded 5 episodes of Brews and Bros. We never edited them. They never saw the light of day. Obviously, they're still in a hard drive somewhere now at this point. We need to find We need to find that footage of you spilling the beer on the computer.
You have to destroy it.
But the thing is, when we decided to do Content is Profit, the first thing we said is like, we are not going to do the 40-minute setup of the porn studio, right? We need to just go out there and record. So how are we going to do it? Let's go live, right? Before this, we did a challenge that we called the 45 Live, where we went live on Facebook for 45 days in a row.
So Facebook you did it on?
Yep. And
that's the easiest one, right? Through Zoom, you can just go right on Facebook. You don't need to get permission from the president to go on LinkedIn or something.
Absolutely.
Which I'm still trying to get, by the way. I've submitted like 3 times. They won't give it to me.
Keep doing it. It took us about 10 submissions to find out.
Okay. But I can't use Zoom, right? I got to use like StreamYard or I need a streaming service, right? more expensive. Yeah.
But, at the end of the day, we're like, let's just go live. Let's remove the friction. If we make mistakes, we embrace them. We laugh about it, right? And I mean, who knows? Maybe people like that stuff. People like to see that you are
that's
real.
why I put the video up unedited, because it's more interesting,
Exactly.
It's funny. You and I, we have like the same path. I did the same thing. I started out, it was going to be this law podcast. Like I was doing things like if you have to go to municipal court or things that you could do yourself kind of. It's like, it was called Let's Talk Legal. It was like a do-it-yourself type of thing. And then we would script this stuff. We'd have to do research and all this work to create these episodes. And then I did 4 or 5 of them. And then a buddy of mine's like, I'm like, what do you think of the podcast? He's like, it's boring. I'm like, really? it's not helpful to you. So it might be helpful to me, but I'm gonna listen to it. You forget about it. I'm like, really? That sucks. So I called up a friend of mine, this guy, Jack. He's the first 2 episodes I did. And I didn't even know half his story, but I'd known him for like 20 years. And I'm like, Jack, I want to record you or interview you on my podcast. And he's like, well, what's a podcast? He didn't know. He's like 80 years old. Although ironically, he's the one who introduced me to Zoom. But so I spent 2.5 hours with him telling the whole story. And we had I didn't have a Rodecaster or this board that I have here. I had like a USB hub to these 2 little laptops. It sounded terrible. I had to clean it all up. I didn't know about. And then I realized as I got into this thing, I better like systematize this thing. The episodes will be a certain way. The videos will go up, because if not, you totally run out of juice. You just fall apart. And that's where there's a lot of podcasts that don't go as many episodes as you and I have done. They go 8, 10 episodes, they drop off.
Absolutely.
So there's good advice for people. If they want to go into content, whatever it is, you better set it up so you can make it, you can run the marathon and you don't just like run out of shit to say. That's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
I love it.
Remove the friction and systematize.
Yeah, that's a good term. Remove the friction.
Yep.
Yeah, we consume a lot of YouTube.
Is that a Venezuelan term? Remove the friction?
No, that's that's definitely from Content is Profit for sure.
That's funny.
There's a hashtag that goes with it, smooth operator.
There you go.
That's his own hashtag. Nobody uses that hashtag. Literally, nobody.
He approved it. He was like, that's incredible.
When I first started on social media, all this stuff with I didn't understand hashtags. I'm like, what the fuck does that mean? So I shouldn't curse, but it's not live TV. So so I would put these hashtags, like you said, like hashtag buy and hacker law, hashtag. And somebody says, it's not like that's a trend. Nobody's following those. What's the point of them? And then I started to learn what they meant.
Yeah, it's incredible little content buckets all over the internet.
Yeah.
But so we consume a lot of YouTube content, we enjoy that. And we've been learning from a lot of creators in a very different way, because producing a podcast is very different than
there's some really good stuff out there.
A YouTube video. Yeah, absolutely. So
who's the guy who started me? Pat Flynn, right? He's the big podcast.
Pat Flynn, he's doing wonderful things with his show and the way that he creates content, right? But I think we're like, what we consume is a little bit more on the entertaining side. But here's something how it relates, right? Like there's this creator called Logan Paul. Like he's the one that Logan Paul, right? He's started in Vine way back in the day doing like 1 minute videos, and it has evolved into a bunch of followers, right? And he just moved from California to Puerto Rico, right? Because he's into boxing now, and he's fought he fought Floyd Mayweather like a month ago.
Maybe that's why I recognize his name. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. That was probably
he's a very polarizing social media person, just so you know.
So what they were talking about it in his show yesterday, like from Puerto Rico, is like his partners or he co-hosts where like your creative juices have shifted from the content, right? Because he has a YouTube channel that he vlogs, right? That he creates his daily or like weekly vlogs that he hasn't done it, and has shifted from that creative environment into a bunch of business ideas. So like he's launching on September 1st, for example, a bunch of like NFTs for like in this world. And he's like creating all these wonderful revenue generating things, right? Instead of the content side of things. And it's like, one of the biggest things was I changed the environment where I was in to be able to do this, right? So for the creators or the podcasters, what we talked about is that environment. And that he co-hosts is still in California, right? And the guy's like, for a creator like me that needs to grab that traction, I need to be in that environment where the creators are, because they rely on collaboration so much.
Right.
Posting, like
feeding off of each other.
Exactly. And creating content for one channel and then for the other one with the same creator. So they attract audiences, right? So for us, for example, podcasting wise, we're in a very good advantage because we can really connect with anybody.
Right.
Anywhere in the world, right?
Yeah.
So,
I've had people on from all around the world.
I know. Getting emotional. But
all these friends that we have around the world.
But I thought it was really curious because it's like, okay, where do you put that energy, right? So us as, let's say, as business owners, like you with your practice, right? Us with the service and content momentum, right? Where is the energy going to go? Is it going to go to operations and the systems and in place, or the show, right? So we got to remove the friction either for both of them to be able to do this. So how do we do that? We build the systems like in the business side of things to be able to support it. So we're very lucky, like during last year was our biggest growth year, and we were able to hire 6, 7, 8 people to work with us, right? So that's creating those systems, removing the friction operationally so we could dive into the show 3 times a week, because that's how we produce it and live, right? And then how do we keep consistent there? We build those systems, we remove the friction so we can execute. So that's something that is very, I feel like every business owners that want to dive into content and creation, that's something that has to happen. Is like, we got to keep our business systems under control, right? So they don't require our attention and our energy, right? And at the same time, creatively for that, set up an environment, which is not like, maybe it's your room or the office or the studio, but an environment of production where everything is taken care of. Like you did, we're like, we're doing it this style, we're doing it this day, we're doing it with this type of content. So there's no friction whatsoever on creating, right?
Because if not, you don't know what you're walking into every day. You come to the office, you're like, oh, we got 3 interviews today. You're like, what? Don't we have the bookkeeping to do, or this or that, or meet with the clients or whatever. Now, you guys produce content for people, for certain businesses, you're actually writing, you have people writing the content for them?
So no, we're like a little bit ahead of that.
We're on the post-production side.
We're on the post-production side. So whenever like somebody, let's say they already create their main piece of content, let's say this show, for example, right?
Okay. Let's say they just record the show and they have one file and that's it. Nothing.
One file, that's it, right? And then they want to leverage their time, as in, I want to be present literally in every single social media channel from that piece of video, for example, right? Then our team comes in and creates those assets for whatever output.
So you're doing headliners, you're chopping it up, you're taking excerpts, you're posting it.
Yeah. So there's different levels, but yes, that's the main idea. Is like, how can we be omnipresent? So, we have a really cool story with one of our CMOs, Greg. He runs like a $200 million real estate company, right? And he was spending about 80 hours a month just like trying to record content on his own, teaching people about real estate and these things, right? And he would like jump on his staff members and try to record stories with the staff members. Everybody was escaping from him, right? And when he came in to talk with us, we're like, we only need you for 4 hours. And he's like, 4 hours a week? Done. Where do I sign? I was like, no, it's 4 hours a month. So he's like, what? So in his case, we were going to create that show. It was like 4 hours, 1 hour a week, basically with the people that he connects, like his dream clients, his strategic partners, people of influence, customers, testimonials, right? All these incredible things where he just had to sit down for an hour, which now we do, for example, with Zoom or any other tool, right? And then we grab that content, and they create 60, 50 different assets every single week that are
from the 1 hour.
Him.
Sure.
Yeah, exactly. That are working for him all over social media. So a lot of people kind of batch high volume. I think is the best thing that you could do for your content is create high volume, work your way up to get to that point. Or if you have the resources, create and distribute, because that's top of funnel. We got to be top of mind from the audience that's seeing you every single day, because consistency, right? It translates into many other things like trust. What is the archetype that we have? Arts, right? Authority, relevancy, trust. And then people get to know you, right, as an attractive character, right? And they're like, I trust this person.
They recognize you. They've seen you 15 different places, and they start to say, wow, this guy really knows what he's talking about.
Yeah. But without consistency, that doesn't happen, right? So going back to what we were saying, build that system, build that specific environment where we can execute consistently, and then resources will go up because sales are going to happen naturally. That's what happens, right? If the system is in place, and then those resources come back into content, and then omnipresence. So yeah, that's a little summary of.
Nice. No. That answers the question about, how do you produce content, and how much content do you need, and what do you do? So you guys are doing basically the post-production and the promotion really on the social media platforms. That's your bailiwick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, it all started with removing the friction, right? How can we remove the friction for you, right? So after you're done doing your magic, right? Spitting facts over here on the mic for the podcast. You don't want to sit down and have to do all the editing on all this stuff. Yeah. And we're like, okay, how can we maximize your effort and just get you in front of more opportunities? Yeah. And that's how we created the process. And honestly, the process started because we needed it. We're like, okay, we got all this content. Right. Let's just build it for ourselves. And then it's like, wow, we got something that we can actually
do it for other people. Sure.
To help other people. Yeah.
We had
Go ahead, Luis.
I remember we had a call with a master. This guy is a master of cold calling, right? And he broadcasts this incredible show in Amazon, and there's a bunch of people seeing the live show, right? But the friction was they didn't have a team, or they didn't want to spend the time finding that team that could create that. Like, it could be very frustrating, that process, and cost a lot of money and time, right? Yeah. So, we came in, and one of the questions that he's like, what's my ROI on this, right? I'm like, well, we're giving you back at first a ton of frustration from a time back, right? So, like, how do you value that first?
You're giving him back the frustration?
No, we're taking that first to go back to your face. No, we're removing the frustration of trying to build the system and the process. And once somebody has it, is beautiful, right? So we take care of that. But also, Fonzi has this really awesome question where it's like, okay, well, you are really good at the cold calling. So like, let's do the math. Like, how many cold calls a day are you doing, right? Well, how many cold calls you're not doing because you're focusing on the content and hiring this team, like the time that's back. So just grab a fraction of that time that you're going to get back. And if you do what you're best at, what do you think you can do? And we remember seeing like his face, and he was like doing kind of like math in his head, and he didn't say anything, but he's like, okay, let's talk. Right. But that's it. Right. Because we're taking our resources, and sometimes I don't know why, and this happens to all of us as business owners. When we tackle content, we feel like we need to do everything. When as a business owner, you have those resources to leverage whoever's in there or the system that you have in place.
Well, so I think we all start out being solopreneurs, and we kind of do it ourselves because we don't have the money, and we never get to the point where we say, oh shit, I shouldn't be doing $20 an hour work. I should be doing the $200 an hour work, and somebody else should be doing the $20. It's hard to make that transition.
So it's hard to let go. Let me tell you.
Yeah.
Definitely, awesome. Definitely. You just made me think of something. I was going to ask you a question. So, are there any, like, if you looked at your client base, are you working in any particular industries more than you're working in others, or is it kind of all over the board?
We've had people from healthcare to real estate, to coaches, to solopreneurs recently. This is really fun. I think they collect trash. So it's a clearing company. It's a clearing company, right? They go to places and clear entire lots and different things. So we've been in a bunch of industry, and that's a great question, because when we were trying to figure out what we were gonna do, we put on a whiteboard every single thing that we were doing at the time, right? And you hear a lot, niche down, try to serve like one type of person. And usually it's more profitable to be a specialist. Yeah. Exactly. So we're like, we don't really want to be like the content guys for fitness. So we don't want to be the content guys for dietitians, right? We're like, right. How can we do that? Right. But there's 3 pieces of differentiation. And one of them is the process, right? So what we did was, it is a process. So as long as this is the input, which is like a long form video, there's an output that we can give you, right? So the process is very powerful, because we can go from 0 to 60 assets a week, like very quickly, right?
Yeah.
And then there's the system in place to distribute that, and how do we coach people to do that, or how do we do it ourselves if they have the resources, right? So we niche down on the process. So that's the type of client. Mostly are people that are creating video podcasts, right? Because it's very low friction to create that piece. And normally the type of businesses that have that ability to create a podcast or be consistent with a podcast or a conversation is because their systems on the back end, if they're selling something, are strong enough to support that, right? So that's another quality. That's another thing that we're looking for. There's a certain type of client that we accept to execute the service, because they need to support that, right? It's like, are you going to hire a video editor, right? Well, you need to support the salary of the video editor. Like, how much is it, right? So is the same conversation. So, but yeah, we've been in many industries, which is fun.
Yeah. Now, do you guys, you're not doing like website building or whatever, right? If you get involved with somebody, they have a website, or if it's not too great, you bring somebody else in. How do you
So we've been able to build an incredible network, not only from the show, but referrals and people that we work with in different projects in the past. So we're happy to refer to that person and make an introduction. We've made introduction in the SEO world, the website world as well, and different things, email marketing campaigns, different things, right? Different elements that feed the marketing beast. One of the things that we kind of silently released over the last month or so was we weren't producing the podcast audio. So that's a piece now that we can take care of.
Oh, you were just doing the video?
We used to just do the video, right? Like just the production of that. So there's different add-ons that we can do there, but podcast production, audio production, all that, show notes, that's another piece that we can, like a Lego piece you can put into the service. Then we also build a website for the show, right? So that's where all your episodes are going to be compiled there, SEO, the notes, players. So it's very simple to where you have it in your own platform on top of also distributing that podcast somewhere else. So there's different pieces that is very customizable, where if I only need this one production piece, we can. If we need the production piece plus ads, plus distribution, plus the website, we can do that as well. So it has evolved.
So you do a lot of content production for people, but a big focus of it is podcasting, video podcasting or audio podcasting. Right?
So long form content, yes.
Yeah, long form.
And now I think I saw the stat actually yesterday. I think it is like 50% of podcasters now are actually doing video as well as just the audio, right? So that is the perfect long form content right there, because how many, we call them golden boulders instead of, golden nuggets. Golden boulders, way bigger, way more powerful. How many of those do they share in one episode, right? You can use so much of that information to, again, share it and leverage that around the internet.
Yeah. Well, guys, I'm sure we could talk all afternoon, but I appreciate coming on. Definitely take you up on it. Come on to your podcast. We'll talk about whatever you want to talk about, law for small business owners, what they need to do, all that boring stuff. And we can talk about some fun stuff too. But I can't thank you enough for taking the time for me, especially finding out that you just got over COVID.
Yes.
Thank you, Mitch.
This makes us so happy, Mitch. I'm not going to lie. I was so depressed and deprived because we weren't creating, we were having these conversations, and that was the main reason.
You feel better now?
Absolutely, 100%.
I feel re-energized.
On Tuesday, we had this conversation where we're okay, we're looking at the end of the week and next week.
Right.
And Fonzi asked me hey, what are we going to be doing Friday? Right. Because we had this show, and then we might have to record just a little piece for our show to explain why we were kind of MIA for 2 weeks.
Like a welcome back type of thing.
Yeah. Welcome back type of thing. So we made the decision. We're let's leave the interviews or anything content related that's there, because that's literally the gas that fuels. This is why we do it 3 times a week, right? We've conditioned our bodies and our minds to be able to have these incredible conversations and connections. So thank you for welcoming us back into the content world.
I appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
If you like the podcast, please tell others about us. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, on Google Podcasts, on Amazon Music, and many of the other podcast directories. If you like what you hear, please leave us a 5-star review and feel free to share our episodes on social media. If you have any questions or comments, ideas for the show, or you'd even like to appear as a guest, reach out to us by email at info@beinhackerlaw.com. The Accidental Entrepreneur is hosted and produced by me, Mitch Beinhacker. If you'd like more information about my legal services, you can find me on social media or visit my website at beinhackerlaw.com. Thanks for listening, and be sure to subscribe to our feed to be notified of all future episodes.